Good evening, everybody. It's KB5MIQ Big Boy. Thought we'd just talk for a few minutes. I want to kind of go back and address something in my last video when I mentioned grounding. Got a really nice comment. I really did. The guy made a lot of good points, and I want to clarify something I said. He asked me if I thought, hey, Ham Radio Cat, Aaron, old number one fan, Ham Radio Cat jumped up here. Uh, Asked me if I thought saying that do whatever you want to do in grounding was a good way to answer a question for hams. I want to clarify that a little bit. Uh, there is, like Jeff, my buddy Jeff, WG5HKV, said if you bring up grounding or bail fungs in ham radio, you're brave for bringing it up. There's a lot of different ways to look at that. Now, first off, I want to reiterate the fact that I don't tell people how they should run their station, or especially don't tell you to do it the way I do it. I'm trying to give you the tools and the resources for you to make a decision based on your particular situation, pocketbook, location, etc., to run the best station you can. Now, I still kind of stand by the way I do my grounding. Not saying it's the best. And you can look at my ideas or suggestions through these videos, kind of like the National Electric Code. First paragraph in the National Electric Code book says that the code is the minimum requirements for a safe installation. It may not be the best or may not be the most efficient, but it's just the bare minimum. And that's what I'm trying to do here, helping you guys out, because nobody knows their pocketbook. I don't like to see guys get snarky answers. I don't like to see guys get NASA engineer answers. Now, I do agree with the fact that all grounding points should go to the same location, and that is a code requirement now. And I can give you a good example of that. My parents' house was built in 70, evidently before that was a code requirement. The electrical comes into the southwest corner of the house, and the phone comes into the north side of the house, and the phone line is not connected to the ground rod on the house. I can't tell you in 40 years how many times that phone box has been blowed off the house, to include being blowed off the house right now. My dad doesn't use that phone anymore, had it turned off, but they leave the box on the house, and it's a hunk of melted junk from one of the last electrical storms. Now, grounding. One thing everybody needs to remember now, if you live in a house that's built in the last 40 years, and wired properly with three-prong plugs, you need to realize that that bare ground should be common through your entire house system all the way back to your ground rod. So theoretically, when you plug your three-prong plug in on your power supply, it's going straight to the ground off the equipment ground side of it. Not saying you don't need to do anything else. Ground rod at the radio, grounding point at the radio needs to be tied into the same ground. I have no problem with that. Two things, and Jeff brought this up. If you don't build your house or build a station specifically in mind in your electrical pad grid on your house, where you're going to put your station, if you do like, say, Jeff and I did, we started out before we had kids, or kids was little bitty kids, and we had these stations in our bedrooms. And now kids have grown out, and we've taken over one of the kids' bedrooms as a station. And more than likely, it's not going to be anywhere close to your ground rod on your house. So, do what you think you need to do with grounding. Follow the ARRL grounding suggestions. Do whatever your pocketbook will let you do. Now, my statement on unplugging my gear each time, that works for me. You can look behind me, I don't run a big station. In fact, this is the first time in my career as a ham I've even had two HF radios at the same time. Most of the time it's an HF radio with a VHF there, and that's it. And a lot of times it was just HF sitting there. So, it's just a habit I've got. I hook up when I start operating and unhook when I shut off. Works. That's what works for me. Jeff does it. Cody does it. Now, you guys that's got the big elaborate rack mounted stations, that may not work. And if you trust your equipment grounding protection that you've got with your equipment, go for it. I have no issue with that. I just don't trust manufactured, engineered grounding equipment because I've seen too much of it through my career as an electrician, both as a civilian and in the Air Force, and other area, talking with people that's been in this hobby, been in this for a long time. A good friend of mine was a commercial communication, commercial radio business. He always said you can do everything you want to with grounding and it'll stop 95% of it. There's always going to be that one strike that nothing will stop. You know, getting back to installed Pacific Lightning grounds, Dish Network come out here years ago, hooked me a new system up, put that little grounding block in line with it, grounded everything out. 1 week later, had to come put a new system up. We took a lightning hit that fried it. So, I'm not telling you not to ground. I'm not telling you to ground the way I do. Research it. Do what your pocketbook allows. And I love the comments. Please keep commenting. And if I ever don't respond to a comment, it's going to be because YouTube ain't letting me for some reason. All right, I want to talk about a little bit something that is ham radio related, but it may get just a little off subject. This is a post I saw on one of the ham radio pages. What I'm about to say contradicts the long-held conventional wisdom and core component of the SKYWARN program. Yada, yada, yada. This guy's basically saying that he believes the science is good enough now that we should instead advise evacuations in case for the path and damage are known and predictable of a tornado. Now, I don't really agree with that. From SKYWARN experience, I went to several National Weather School SKYWARN classes back in the 90s and saw a lot of video footage of weather. And I firmly believe if you have access to a storm shelter at home, use it. If you want to try to make it to a public storm shelter, a lot of these smaller towns have got city storm shelters, that's fine. But I still say if it's an intimate up on you shelter in place in your house is the best idea. Now, the reason I say that, National Weather Service showed us video, one video in particular, it was a dash cam of a cop car stopped under an interstate bridge, and some cars decided to try to outrun the tornado. They made it about 300 yards, and then they go bouncing straight across the road and killed everybody in the car. I'm afraid if you doing SKYWARN and you tried to initiate a mass evacuation, that could possibly lead to more casualties than just leaving everybody at the house. I think ham clubs that are doing SKYWARN need to keep doing it, need to promote in their area that people buy them either a receiver, shortwave receiver, VHF scanner, or a National Weather Service alert monitor, alert radio. Listen for warnings that they get. Most of these towns have tornado horns now. But I don't believe in ordering a mass evacuation in the path of a tornado is a good idea. In fact, ham radio operators have been heavily involved in SKYWARN probably since its inception. And SKYWARN, ham radio operators and storm spotters usually get killed every year doing SKYWARN trying to help people. So you need to watch yourself and promote getting a scanner and a radio, but I would not promote having people evacuate. One of the SKYWARN classes I went to, they showed interviews where they had a really bad tornado in Wichita Falls in the late 70s. And they interviewed about 15 people that were caught out in it that survived it. All 15 of them was at least a single amputee. some of them were double amputees from stuff in the air. And like the comedian Ron White says, it ain't that the wind is a blowing 100 miles an hour, it's what the wind is blowing 100 miles an hour. So promote your SKYWARN, participate in it, get trained by the Weather Service, but I would not advise any club trying to initiate with a city on any kind of a forced or advised evacuation in the path of a tornado. All right. Just like asking about a bail fund. I see people asking about them things, and half the responses that they're good radios, the other half is you're trash for using them. So don't pay no attention to it. If you want to use one, use it. That's about all I can think of on it right now. Hit 507 subscribers. I really appreciate everybody who subscribed to the channel. We're still doing our roundtable. Monday, HKV is going back to the mountain where we did our where the Queen Wilhelmina Ham Fest was. We're going to do a little more 2 meter. Crap, what's the word? I just completely brain farted. This single frequency back and forth from the mountain up there. We're going to work on that on 2 meters a little bit. I don't think he's going to be able to take anything up there on HL, so we're going to try that. We still do our round table Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday nights. Y'all excuse me, I'm taking some medicine for sinus infection. I guess it's kind of affecting my thinking a little bit. Hey, Ham Radio Cat. Remember, Main Trading Company in Paris, Texas. Great place for ham radio gear. Your club pages, 4 States Amateur Radio, Dallas Amateur Radio, Cowtown Amateur Radio, Shreveport Amateur Radio. Facebook pages, Ham Radio Flea Market Trading Posts, Ham Radio, Amateur Radio Elmer's, Texas Amateur Ham Radio, all good Facebook pages for information. My call sign is KB5MIQ. My email's posted on my QRZ page. Feel free to email me any questions you got. I'll try to help you any way I can. KB5MIQ, Big Boy, 73.